Imagine a small business owner in a remote village waiting for a crucial shipment of supplies to grow her enterprise. Now imagine a sprawling city where traffic congestion threatens to delay the delivery of life-saving medical equipment. But what if technology could change all this, making logistics not just faster but smarter, more reliable, and deeply connected to our everyday lives? Welcome to this special episode of ET Studios NextGen Infra in association with ET Infra, where we explore how technologies like IoT, AI and real-time analytics are revolutionizing logistics, the lifeline of infrastructure. It's not just about moving goods, it's about connecting people, ensuring sustainability and powering economies. Now today we are joined in by Kapil Mahajan, who is the Chief Information and Technology Officer at Allcargo Logistics. Kapil, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, in this episode we're going to talk about all the advancements and the technologies that are taking place in the logistics or in the infrastructure sector. Starting with, logistics is often referred to as a circulatory system of infrastructure, right? Connecting people, cities and businesses together. But with so many technologies coming in, IoT, AI, real-time analytics, how do you see this sector evolving? Like not only just logistics, but infrastructure as a whole?
As you rightly said, there's a lot of technology out there. And there are a lot of industries that are getting touched by each of these technologies that you mentioned. If I start with infrastructure, I believe that a lot of these technologies have become mainstream in most of the infrastructure areas within logistics per se. Whether we talk about industrial IoT, we talk about blockchain, we talk about now AI and then Gen AI. So we are seeing use cases, especially around IoT. It has been there for over a decade, because I've been in this industry for close to about 7-8 years now, and IoT has been there, at least for all the major players in the market in India, right? And I think now it's at an inflection point where you want to get more out of that IoT, right? Where you invested a lot of capex in sensors or GPS trackers or warehouse automation. And now with the Gen AI and the AI and the edge computing coming together, what you can get out of these intelligent devices is something that's going to do a tactical shift in how data is leveraged and how companies are going to build the next level of innovations. And a lot of that work is actually happening in India. So very exciting space to be in from a logistics standpoint. And if I talk about the industry in general, then I see that a lot of it has already been adopted. So if you look at a lot of the manufacturing sectors, right? So whether they're using the SAP, but a lot of their industrial machines or systems are running SCADA, and then now they have AI complementing it. They have a lot of these IoT sensors that are now feeding real-time data in. With the edge computing being there, so a lot of the decision making and the data processing and churning is happening on the edge, which is just next to the machine, instead of the data flowing to a common grid on the cloud or on your data center. A lot of the decision making can now happen on the edge, which is where the device is. So it's faster, it's more critical systems can function using that set of technology. So I think overall it's been a disruptor, and now you will see a lot of that getting more sophisticated and more intelligent, so to speak. So all these sensors and all will make the companies more cognitive in a way.
All right, so you're talking about, like, for example, IoT. You spoke about IoT, that it has been here for years now, right? The new technologies are coming in, right? And they all are sort of integrating with AI, IoT, right? And sort of creating better results for the companies like yours. But talking about the potential of IoT, like you said that now we look at more sophisticated systems, right? Do you think that have we just scratched the surface of its potential, or are we already maturing, like reaching towards the maturity of IoT?
So I would say it's a hard question to answer, right? Because when we thought we are done with IoT, you had the Gen AI that fell on your lap, and then before that AI, right? So now what's happening is that The IoT, in my view, is it's like the computers, right? You had the first set of mainframes, and then they evolved, and then the computing moved in the palm of your hand, right? And now digital gadgets, your smart watches, all of that is IoT, right? So, in my view, I won't say that it's we're scratching the surface. I think we've scratched it long time back. Now we are making things more smarter, intelligent. For example, let's look at smart cities, right? So I have a sensor on a dustbin that tells me the dustbin is full. Now, if I put an AI layer on it and a smart computer vision camera, it can tell me that, hey, the dustbin is about to get full in 2 hours. Right? It can predict. I'm just giving a very rudimentary example. I don't know if such a thing exists. So it makes it better, right? The town planning, the planning for the folks who are picking up this garbage can be more smarter, right? It won't be clock based picking up. 8 o'clock I go to Hoskas, and 9 o'clock I go to Punjabi Bagh. It would become more intelligent, and that route planning can be driven by the sensors, right? And the AI and the machine learning takes care of how that route has to be designed in say every day or a part of the day, depending on how you're picking the garbage material. Similarly, your traffic lights, right? So you're sensing the traffic lights. So now imagine an edge computing happening at a traffic light, where using computer vision, which is again a form of AI, looks at the stream of vehicles that are lined up on different intersection and predicts which intersection needs how much time to clear up, right? So this is all happening on the edge, on the device, on that red light. Now you take this a little forward, and I say, if I connect all these red lights, right, and now I am getting data that is sensing how does the traffic look like in 20-kilometer radius. I know that your car generally travels on this route. You come to Noida for work, right? So it has the intelligence to look at your number plate and say, hey, she's on this road, most likely she's going to the office, right? And now it orchestrates how many vehicles are going to hit the next red light and the next red light and what intersections, right? Then imagine how that whole algorithm, which is going to be built dynamically, can define and manage traffic effectively, right? It's not a function of fixed timings of how a red light works. So in my view, that's what smart cities are going to be looking like in the future. It'll save you fuel because you have the least time to stop on a red light, so you don't burn fuel. So it also helps the ecological factor that's so important in today's world. So I think that's how I would see that shaping now, getting more and more smarter and more cognitive.
All right, you shared wonderful examples, and also you said that you're not sure if these examples are already there or not, but I'm sure these are wonderful sort of ideas for the startups to work on, right? On that note, you were talking about these technologies giving real-time value, giving real value. So how does, in your organization, you sort of use these capabilities to enhance decision making? And as you were talking about all these examples, where are we currently in terms of imagination versus delusion? Like, where are we standing right now?
So I don't know, it's a hard question you asked, delusion and where we are. I can give basis on my experience and what we're doing in the organization. So there are few use cases that I can't share, but because they're first in the industry that we're working on. But I'll give you one or two examples. For example, we do a lot of our, we have a company called Gati, Allcargo Gati, which is an express business, and we run over 5,000-6,000 trucks for ground transportation of goods. So it's a B2B company that takes care of B2B shipments by surface and by air. And as you know, in India, air means commercial aircrafts. We don't have generally logistic, chartered flights right now, at least. So a big problem for us used to be like all these vehicles that are coming in. Now, if you go to a facility like we call it a hub, right? So a hub would be running into multiple acres of land. It would have, say, 50 to 100 cross-dock gates, which means that there are gates on this side and there are gates on this side, and you do a cross-dock, right? So material getting unloaded gets loaded on that bay, right? So that's how you move the material, right? And then every hub would have different earmarked zones. So, material for Bombay, or say North, Bombay, Pune, Delhi, Gujarat, right. So, you have this whole layout which is like a fixed layout on the hub. So, when a truck comes in, we know from the system that what material it's carrying, right, because all the packets are scanned, we know which vehicle, which vehicle number is on which trip, because they have all IoT devices. So, they all have sensors, GPS data. So, every 5 minutes, every 1 minute I know where my vehicle is, right, and it's going from say Delhi to Pune. So, I know it's carrying material for Pune, and it's also carrying material for say few other cities in Maharashtra, right. So, and depending on the hub layout where it's going, now I technically wanted to get parked to a bay that's closest to that inventory stack, so that the movement of the forklift from the truck to the bay is minimal, right. So, that increases my speed of unloading. And imagine if I make them park on bay 1 and the material is on bay 100, right. So, you will have to change the whole forklift, come back, do multiple rounds. So, how do you do that? So, we use, so now we use AI algorithms that will figure out what is the closest bay. It will figure out if certain bays are already allocated, right, and if they are, then which is the available space where it should be allocated, right. So, the moment the vehicle enters, we know that IoT sensors tells us that this vehicle is reached the geofence, right. So, the gatekeeper gets notified that the vehicle is about to arrive, right. The moment it comes in, we do some basic, take an image of the number plate, it automatically tells us what vehicle with what material has come in. It will run the AI algorithm, give the gate number to the security guard and the truck vendor, right, and then he knows where to park, right. And then our team is parallelly informed saying that this vehicle is parked on this bay, even before it arrives in a way, few minutes before that, so they can do the hub planning more effectively, and the team is already there. It's like an aircraft, right. So, how do we move away from manual to what we are doing now is all AI driven, right. So, that is one example. Another example is that in our business we have a proof of delivery that we give to the customer, and we do not get paid until the customer signs and stamps it, right, because the consignor pays for it, and consignee needs to say I have got the goods, so the consignor pays for it, right. So, all this physical copy used to come to us in the hub, used to take 5 days, come to a to a central sorting center, digitization center, where it gets digitized, gets available to the customer. Now, with the AI algorithms that we have written, again as I spoke about edge, so these are edge computing models. So, they run in our mobile app. Even if the internet is not there, when we scan the proof of delivery, it will tell us whether it is the right proof of delivery for the material you have given. Is it hazy, the image? Is it totally captured or not? Does it have the barcode? Right? Does it have the signature or stamp? So, it uses some neural based algorithms to predict, because you can't train the model for all the hand signatures and all that, right? And it's about 80%, 85% accurate. So, the signature stamp, and the rest is about 95%, 98% accuracy we have reached. So, these models then directly send the data to the customer, to the consignor, so he becomes liable to pay right away, instead of waiting for 5 days.
Yeah, like 5 business days are now reduced to maybe an hour or something.
Look at it in a way, maybe a month, because there's a billing cycle. If I miss it,
then
and it goes to the next month,
cycle,
then my cash flow in the market increases, right? My credit line increases. So, if I am having a few $1 million of credit line, to me my working capital reduces. So, if I have more working capital, you can invest it where you want to, or you can just put it in the bank if you want to. But just having that extended credit line to the customer beyond a point, because of your inability to manage it, was a big problem, which we sorted. So, multiple examples like that. I think everywhere we are trying to see AI first, what is it that we can augment with AI and become more competitive.
All right. Thank you. No, these were very wonderful examples, and we have discussed so much about the potential of these technologies. Well, the potential is phenomenal, of course, but I'm sure there must be some challenges, both from the corporate perspective and also from the government perspective, right? So, can you just take us through what are those challenges, and how are you as a company sort of navigating those challenges? Or let's talk about the corporate world, let's talk about the infrastructure space, how they should sort of navigate these challenges, and how can government also be a part of this huge revolution that we are talking about?
No, interesting question, and I've been a part of some of the government initiatives, the policies as well. So I think, in my view, in the last few years, what government has done is phenomenal, right? Whether you look at GSTN, you look at e-invoicing, you look at Aadhaar, you look at Digi, Yatra, all of these are game changers, right? And the scale at which we have done it probably is the biggest in the world, right? The kind of data that it churns and all of that, and all built indigenously, right? And a lot of that credit has to go to the earlier companies, or TCSs and the Infosys of the world, who we started off with back office, and then we started getting more cutting edge work, and now you see a lot of the global innovation centers being run out of India.
Yeah, of
right?
course,
For
from
all the big
back
MNCs.
end to front end, the journey that we have covered is phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. So the tech pool and the talent that we have is the right timing to ride on that talent pool, to do something phenomenal for our own country. And in my view, I think government is playing a very important role, and I think it can accelerate this journey by leaps and bounds, right? For example, I'll give you an example of e-waybill. So biggest problem for us is getting the consigner information, right? So the address information. It's a challenge. It takes a long time to enter the data when you're taking a booking. And a lot of times customer would put the accurate information on the invoice, because that's a legal tender basis which you'll get paid, but not on the e-waybill. Right? They'll just put whatever is the bare minimum. And even on the docket information that they send us. So for a logistic company provider, or for any provider for that matter, where the end destination address is important, it becomes a challenge. So it becomes a native information for our outsourced partners or our own employees. They know that, okay, LG in Gurgaon means this office actually, because they have just been doing it for, right? But now if I want to do route planning through the system, or I want to do some kind of AI algorithms, until the data is accurate, I cannot do much, right? So it's garbage in, garbage out in a way. So how do we fix that? I think government can play a very important role. So after they've done the GSTN, we can directly pull data from the government portal. Now if they enforce that whatever address you're putting on the e-invoice has to match what you're doing in the on the e-waybill, then my guys don't really have to enter the data when I pick up a shipment. If it takes 5 minutes, I can reduce it by few seconds. I can make it few seconds, right? I hit an API, get the data, which I already have access to, the API, and I just populate the docket, right? Because the customer has already told the government, hey, I am sending these shipments through this vehicle and through this logistics provider today. Right? So why am I doing this repetitive job, right? Which are discussions we've had with the government, that why don't you make this available? Imagine the speed and the dexterity and the accuracy that will come with it, right? So again, I think government has a pivotal role to play, even if you look at the security aspects. So, or the IoT governance model itself, right? Standards around IoT. So there are multiple standards. So as a country, we should decide that this is the 2 or 3 standards that have been allowed for you to operate in India, because every country does that, right? So I think once you do that, the whole complexity and the whole ecosystem and the whole tech debt that gets created, because you have no standard and everyone's working on a different device and different, all of that becomes simplified, and people can focus on more business value than technology challenges. Right?
But are there any regulations involved when it comes to data sharing and all of these?
There are. So with now, and I think the data privacy rules are going to come this year, hopefully. So you're going to see, we also maintain the data in India only. India data stays in India. So because we are a global company in over 180 countries. So we have regulations that we have to follow in Europe, in US. So we've just built the whole ecosystem in a way that whatever is the data of the customer and what we call a PSI data stays in that country.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. And as we are ending this conversation towards the end, I want to also talk about sustainability. Sustainability is a key thing when we talk about the future of infrastructure, right? So if you can give any examples on how sort of emerging technologies can also be sustainable and also advanced, like if you can create more eco-friendly and resource efficient projects, how can we do that?
Okay, yeah, I think so. If you look at our company's motto, I think sustainability is very much there in the one of the key principles of the organization, and a lot has been done in the last 2 years around that. I think other than the regular sustainability projects where you're investing in solar and you're planting trees and all of that is okay. But I think with digital, what we have done for Gati, for EQ, we've cut down on literally on our paper use, right? So I think we did a study. I don't have the numbers, so but I think few hundred trees have been, if you look at the number of paper and per tree what paper you consume, A4 sheets, then we did a rough calculation. It was few hundred trees that you have saved, right? Because you've digitized a lot of the documents, like the gate pass. It used to get printed. So he said, hey, we don't need to move into this, right? Why are you printing and doing all that? So whatever is paper becomes digital. So that obviously has got its own merits. Also, I think especially around sustainability, we are looking at giving more information to our customers, because now customers also becoming more sustainably, they also want to be contributing on that aspect. So now we've recently rolled out for our company called EQ, which is the global freight consolidator. We are the largest NVOCC in the world, an Indian MNC, headquartered in Bombay. So what we have done is now every shipping line through which you move the goods through our containers, we give you the emission, right? So what is the carbon footprint of this vessel? So as a customer, you can now decide, hey, I want to pay $1 extra, but I want to move it to a cleaner vessel, right? And we will show you that saving, so you can take that saving and put it as a part of your CSR.
And it's an instant gratification also.
Yeah, and it's a way to measure.
Yeah.
Because this was always, we felt that once we give this capability to the customer, the stickiness, and they all have now emission standards, and they've put their own benchmarks. So they would be able to do that better.
Yeah, basically you can also meet your ESG targets in that way, right? The balance sheets can now turn into green balance sheets.
Green balance sheets, exactly.
Yeah.
And then also in the last few 2 years, we've made most of our hubs green. So putting more solar, more sensor-based lighting, so lights turn on when you're there. Because these are big shop floors, why do you need the lights to be running all the time, right? So that investment, those kind of physical investments have also been done.
All right. But as you know, urbanization is accelerating. You were also talking about the smart city projects, right? There will be more smart cities in the coming few years, maybe in just one more year, because I think the government has sort of increased the deadline of 100 smart cities, their project, right? So urbanization is definitely accelerating. So what are those trends or innovations in this space that sort of keeps you exciting as a professional?
So so actually I have been a cross industry guy. So companies like Airbus, Shell, American Express, Prudential, and then logistics happened.
The wide spectrum that you've covered.
Wide spectrum. So financial services, oil and gas, and when Airbus. But this was a sector where I got stuck. Because why? Because everything was relevant. And if you look at it, logistics contributes to the maximum part of the GDP globally. Look at any country and you'll see that. And I felt that there's still so much to be done. And because it's the least conversation in a boardroom, doesn't mean it doesn't deserve its share of technologists to be there in this industry. And if you look at it with Amazon and all, they're all logistic companies, so to speak, right? Your Zomatos, your Blinkits of the world.
The backbone is logistics.
It's all logistics and tech. Right? They're delivering goods from A to B, which is what we are also doing. But we do B2B, they do B2C, or D2C or C2C, whatever you call it. So the last 7-8 years I've been in this industry, and I think what's really exciting, and especially in the smart city world, is every technology, especially around IoT, cognitive, AI, Gen AI, you would see a lot of that getting merged, right? So whether it's auto driving cars, I don't know how long will it take for it to come to India, but it's a reality abroad, right? So there are parts in California where you have cars that you can rent out and they can drive you. So it's a matter of time. Now, smart cities, smart airports, smart working centers. Everything is becoming smarter. You can also say it's a misused word now, right? So you have to draw a line, what's smart and what's not. But I think what's really keeping me excited to see how all of this will get converged, where you as a user in the center gets to see the value that's getting created, right? And the day-to-day job that takes a lot of our time, that becomes a thing of the past, right? I don't have to call someone to collect my garbage. I don't have to do, I don't have to really look at my camera all the time to see, hey, who's coming in. And the camera should be intelligent to tell me when I need to look, right? Not that that tech is there, but it's still not accessible from a price point, from a usability.
Yeah, it's not
stand.
democratized.
It's
still.
not yet, right? So I think all of that would be really, really exciting to see. And that's why I just feel there's just so much to do every day, and how the transition of technology is happening. It's going to be a whole new world in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, no, of course, like we still have a long journey to cover from imagination to execution, right? There's a long, long journey still pending.
Some of the sci-fi movies that we saw when we were kids,
Yeah.
we're still not there yet.
We are still not there yet, of course, which is why I was talking about delusion and imagination, like what we can actually do and what can lead to execution basically. But thank you so much, Kapil, for sharing your views. You've shared wonderful examples, even for our audiences. You've just broke down all the points so easily for our audiences. Thank you so much for being a part. Yeah. And to our viewers, stay tuned for many more such videos only at ET Studios, NextGen Infra in association with ET Infra.